Neil Armstrong may have seen extraterrestrials on the moon.
When he spies a discernible shape.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
You can deny all the things I've seen, all the things I've discovered, but not for much longer. Because too many others know what's happening out there. And no one, no government agency has jurisdiction over the truth.
Welcome, everybody, to another edition of Full Spectrum Universe. My name is Rob Yox, your Saturday Night Savage. We are here with a tremendous show for you guys today. I have two people that I truly enjoy talking to all the time. These two gentlemen are investigators, they are podcasters, and they are into all facets of paranormal tech and whatnot. Tonight we have Ernie Atwell and David Siler from Step Into the Paranormal. They also have a special announcement that they're going to make tonight. So let's bring everybody on. Ernie, Dave, how are you?
How you doing, Jim?
What's up, Rob? How are you?
Oh, it's going to be a great evening, guys. I love talking to you, and I truly think that we have some of the best conversations about the paranormal that there is to have. So why don't you guys tell everybody, first and foremost, what your big announcement is that was just unveiled about a half hour ago, 45 minutes ago.
Yep. Well, to start off, Happy New Year, everyone.
Happy New
Thank
Year.
you for spending a few hours on Saturday with us. Totally honored. As you know, every other Sunday, Paranormal Inc., which consists of Dave and myself, we host a radio show called Step Into the Paranormal. And at that point, I'll let our tech specialist, Dave, take over and give you the guys the big announcement.
All right. So basically, if you go to www.paranormalinc.net, you can find our YouTube channel. You can find our Facebook page. At that point, you can also find us on Step Into the Paranormal radio show on Facebook. Just right here. Here's where you look. Step Into the Paranormal. You'll find us. A couple weeks ago, we were approached by our home station, WLFEDB Radio, and they wanted to know if we wanted to go live on Roku. So as of tomorrow night, we are broadcasting live stream into Roku Cutting Edge TV. For those of you who have Roku-enabled TV, all you need to do is go to your home screen and search for Cutting Edge TV. You'll find it. It's a free channel to add. We are live at 7:30 p.m. to 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. Every other week, starting tomorrow. And tomorrow night is episode 37 of Step Into the Paranormal.
That's going to be truly awesome, guys. I'm so excited for you. I think that is a tremendous opportunity, and you guys have such a great message when you guys are out there on the radio and, doing your podcast/broadcast. And I think that this is well deserved. I've seen every one of your episodes. I truly love Step Into the Paranormal, and this is going to be awesome to see you guys on TVs all across the country, man. I think it's truly epic.
Excited.
We appreciate it, Rob. Thank you.
We're
of course.
really
Listen, I love the dynamic between the two of you too, and you guys are friends, and when you joke around, and it's having a good time, which is what this should be. And I admire that, and it's kind of like when me and Melinda do our show, we have this incredible dynamic. You guys have that in spades as well, and I can't wait to see it, man. I'm going to find a way to get onto there because I don't have Roku yet, but I am slowly cutting the cord, and I will be doing Roku as well because my cable bill is almost $300 a month, and that's no fun for anybody. And I had to replace the boxes 3 times this year. I mean, I'm telling you, I had a real problem with Comcast, but it's okay. It's okay.
If you want to broadcast in Roku after the show, I'll put you in touch with who the owner of the company is, and you can get onto Roku yourself. Come on.
Oh, man. Well, we're actually about to unveil a tremendous website, and from there, we're going to do a lot of stuff. Nice. We're not only going to have like paranormal shows and other types of news shows. We're going to have like what's almost like a newspaper, an online newspaper, where we talk about anything from headlines to paranormal to UFOs to politics. It's going to be epic. It's going to be epic.
Awesome. That's my girl right there, Teresa Sawyer.
Yeah. They love you guys, man.
Yeah.
We got a lot of people in the audience. There we go.
Oh, wow.
You guys are the best. Congrats on the Roku deal. Yeah.
Thanks.
So for the people,
Interesting.
we're broadcasting on RU Media right now, RU Media Network LLC. I'd like to thank my man Dave Wolliver and Eric McGill for giving me this opportunity. This is the first interview of the year. I'm so excited it's you guys. It's only fitting. So the people on RU Media who may not know you or haven't been to your group on Facebook, which is Paranormal Inc., give us a little bit of how you guys got into the paranormal from that first moment that you knew. You can go one at a time, but that first moment you guys knew, like, this is it. I'm going to do this. I want to do this. We're headed in this direction.
I'll keep it brief before I turn it over to Dave, but I went on my first paranormal investigation in 1999 after many years of research and studying on religion and spirituality and prophetic vision and ghost visitation and all that stuff. It led me in the direction of investigating. I went out for years, doing what everybody else does, visiting places we weren't supposed to go, things like that, seeing if I could gather any types of evidence. I believe it was 2011, I was asked to be a guest investigator on a case with an organized team out of our home state. And eventually, Dave and we attended the same karate dojo. And he never knew I was in the paranormal. I never knew he was in the paranormal. And one day he approached me about, I'll do that. Yeah, looking at something, and just to give me a wow factor, so to speak. And at one point in time, the team I was with, we were interviewing for investigators. So of course we interviewed Dave, and without much thought, brought him aboard. And then in 2017, after months of talking and collaborating with other people, Dave and I decided to start a solo project.
Well, he was doing a solo project, and I told him I'm coming with him.
Well, that's the way it goes sometimes. Yeah, listen,
So
I'm coming. That's it.
At that point, Paranormal Inc. was born. And, from then on, it's just been, of course, our primary function is residential and commercial haunts and claims of hauntings. Mm-hmm. But we do have the bonus of participating in a lot of paracons and expos. And actually, in 4 weeks, we're getting ready to debut our third seminar.
Yep.
That's awesome.
Yes.
I've actually been on Step Into The Paranormal, and we talked about the last investigation you guys went on, where you saw a childlike entity in the rafters, and you thought that was going on. I know you guys had, I believe you guys still had some EVPs left to go over at that point. Has anything come about from that?
Absolutely.
From that investigation?
And the investigation we were on was actually a public investigation. We are going back with a very small team to do a private investigation there now.
We were asked by, we had a very good friend of ours, Kelly Miller. She's a psychic medium, and she was our special guest investigator for the last 2 times that we held public investigations at this location. Well, she was so intrigued by the energy and the activity that basically what she did was got this mansion for the night and called in, specific investigators that she wants on this case. So it's this month, actually, the end of this month. A small group of us who are investigators, along with Kelly Miller, who's a medium, we will be going up and hitting it for real.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I can't wait to see what you guys get from that, because I know when you were on the public investigation, you guys had some, some things that happened, and we'll get into that a little bit once we get down the line. So now that you guys got the Roku and, you're doing this podcast, what's your favorite thing to do? As in, is it radio, broadcasting, or is it like podcasting, you think?
Well, I'm a network engineer by trade. I love the tech stuff. He likes the old school stuff. So that's why when we do, peas in a pod, we're there. I was born the day before Halloween, so I've always loved creepy and spooky. And I was doing paranormal investigation before I knew I was doing paranormal investigation. I was that guy that would roll into old St. Mary's College with a small little flashlight and some friends, trying to get creeped out. You know,
Actually, not to cut him off, but this is just how things tie together, Rob.
Okay.
The location he's speaking of is a place he visited. Now, a few moments ago, I said I went on my first investigation in 1999.
Mm-hmm.
Just so happened to be the same place.
oh really?
Yeah,
That's
that was the first, yeah,
that's
that was
I never knew that.
now.
That's awesome.
For those of you that follow our Step Into the Paranormal, Paranormal Inc. page, a few months ago, you're going to see some selfies Dave and I did on a day trip on our motorcycles. Well, we posted some photos in front of
The steps.
graffiti,
Yep.
a graffiti wall. That's the location he's talking about.
Yep.
That's the location where I did my first investigation 22 years ago.
Yeah.
Isn't that wild? Like the synchronicity of your stories in that sense, and how now you're here.
The bizarre part is, and I'll kind of get into this in a sec. You know, so throughout all this time, I'm doing the investigation, not knowing I'm doing paranormal investigation. Well, what happened was my now ex-wife and I went on a trip to New Orleans, and down there we went into this restaurant that was supposedly haunted, and it had a seance room, and took some pictures. Caught this really, really wild picture of a guy in a shawl kind of peeking around it through the mirror. And as I'm looking at it at the table, the waiter saw it and went, "Did you just take that upstairs?" And I'm like, "Yeah." He goes scurrying off. Comes back. The owner of the restaurant came up and said, "Can I see the photo?" And he's like, "Yeah." So he says, "Can you email it to me at this email?" "Sure. Come with me, please." I'm like, "Oh, God, what did I do wrong?" He takes me into this back room. There's hundreds of photos. So I get back to the karate dojo after the trip, and I'm like, dude, you got to see this bad photo. Oh, my God. And he's like, "Dude, I'm going to blow your mind." I'm like, "What?" He goes, "I'm with prom." I'm like, "You're going to prom?" He goes, "No, I'm with prom." I'm like, "Who's prom?" "Paranormal Researchers of Maryland." I'm like, "Huh?" That's how I got to actually doing paranormal investigation. And then coming along the way, he's like, we're going to do a solo project. But as we became more and more friends through the dojo, we found out as police officers, I used to be an Anne Arundel County officer. We used to work literally opposite sides, almost sides of the street, sides of the wall. We just never ran into each other over all these years. My first girlfriend was one of his best friends. Her brother was his best friend.
That's how you know it's like meant to be. You know what I mean?
The thing, Rob, and I haven't even really told Dave the whole story, but in my career, I had a major change take place in my career back in 2014. And, it was kind of depressing. I was kind of contemplating, man, I'm about ready to give this career up. Well, I needed to fill a void in my life, so to speak. I had my job. I was on my paranormal team that really wasn't doing a whole lot. And I was like, my next best passion in life was, since age 7, I've always been involved in karate. Well, being a black belt at my original school, and I taught for X amount of years, I said, hey, now that I'm getting older, I'm going to rediscover my passion. And I searched my neighborhood for like 4 months, local area, looking for a new school to join and start over. And that's exactly what I did. And that's how I met Dave. And Dave and I became friends at the karate school for, I don't know, a year or two before we even knew each other.
We just threw each other around on a mat.
Right.
Not really.
Didn't even know anything about the paranormal, between us.
We were just chatting on the mat. He'd throw me, I'd throw him.
But the point of my story is, I'm a firm believer, and we've discussed this before, Rob. Sometimes in life, things take a turn for the better or worse. And my belief is, at the time, we're not supposed to know why these things are happening, whether they're good or bad. But eventually things will come full circle and you'll start to see the reasoning.
Yep.
And all the turns that my life took, from 2014 to 2017, it led Dave and I to where we are now. And I'm a firm believer in that.
Yep.
I really am. And it's like all my questions of why did this happen or why didn't this go my way?
Yep.
Now I know, because it got us to where we are now.
Yep, exactly.
Because if those bad changes, so to speak, wouldn't have happened, I wouldn't have had the time or the
same here
to get where we're at now.
Same here. I mean,
Right.
every little turn that I've taken, good or bad, led me to going into that karate dojo. I ended up taking my daughter, who's now 14, and I'm like, well, while she's in it, why not I just join it instead of just sitting in the gallery? And I started going to the adult class at night because she went to the kids class during the afternoon. So we stood there a couple extra hours, and that's how we hooked up and met up and just started chatting and went from there.
Isn't it wild how, like you said, there's no such thing as coincidence, but that's one of the things about being a positive person that is one of the most difficult steps, is to see these bad happenings, looking for those silver linings.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, it's always in retrospect when you're like, well, that's why it happened like that.
Mm-hmm.
But going through those times can be difficult. So
Absolutely.
but there is always like a light at the end of on the other side of that dark night.
There is
the light comes again,
Mm-hmm.
and it's so fitting because, there's a lot of things that happen along the way like that. But now you're here. Now you're about to do Roku, and you're about to do, Step Into Paranormal. It's a very successful podcast. And, I think that's truly a testament to your guys' character and the fact that you guys follow this path that, you're destined for great things, guys. And I truly believe that in my heart. And I think,
and to add to what we're, talking about right now, Rob, we were just talking a few minutes ago about my one and only trip to New York a few months ago, and why I was there. And the show that I got called up there to film is based on an occurrence that happened while I was at work. And, many times the police department I'm at now, I didn't start my career at. And, many times I questioned, hey, man, was this a good move or whatever? But it's just those little things like that, if I wouldn't have decided to take this new job, go to this new department, what I experienced that night and months after that wound up making, TV, it would have never happened.
Right.
And it's just like, sometimes you just gotta, I like to sometimes, Rob, put my brain on cruise control and just let it go where it needs to go and stop trying to figure things out. Sometimes you just gotta sit back and enjoy the ride.
I agree with that because, it was like 2020 for me personally, where I got laid off. I was working overnights and I was picking up boxes all night long at this place called A Syndico. And we were what we did is we had big pallets. We drove machines around with double pallets, and we just pull these boxes, 50, 60, 90-pound boxes off the shelf all night long.
Oh, wow.
And then we all got furloughed because of what was happening with the world,
Mm-hmm.
Not to get too into it, but it gave me this moment where I had this clear epiphany, like I'm going to go do what I've always wanted to do. It gave me that redirection moment, and as bad as it was, because we did struggle for a little while with no money, the silver lining is now all of my efforts are deemed towards my broadcasting, podcasting, making sure that takes off. Soon we're going to have the website where I'm going to be doing my investigative journalism, which is going to be awesome because I love doing that too. I love researching. So, throughout these moments, sometimes they make you who you are, these bad moments, to bring you to that happy place where you wouldn't be able to enjoy have not that bad moment happened, And
Yep.
I think it's awesome.
It's awesome. You used to always tell me you can't have a good without a bad. You can't have a happy without a sad. You can't have an up without a down. So there's got to be something there. He was a very profound man. I mean, one of the things he told me is don't ever bring anything home you can't crumple up and throw in the trash. I never got that as a kid. I got that as an adult.
I get that too. As a kid, I never really understood most of those things, but now I'm like, yep, they all make sense.
Yeah.
What's the old adage your parents say to you when that first crush breaks your heart? That it's better to have loved and lost than to never have loved at all. And that's true. I mean,
yeah.
Back in the day, growing up, those are just words. But when you think of things like that people say to you, reoccurring accusations, they run so much more deep when you think about it.
Right. And that takes us actually to like one of the topics I kind of wanted to talk about tonight, which was, you know, this, let's say even 20 to 30 years ago, paranormal was what it was. It was very silent. It was under the radar. There wasn't a lot of tech for it. There wasn't a lot of people investigating. And when you found these like-minded people, you guys would usually become a group because there was only 5, 6 of you in a 50-mile radius that was actually doing this stuff.
Right.
Compared to today, right? It's such a dynamic change, and there's such an arc to it that now, like, we've gotten to this pinnacle point where it's so saturated with people doing this that, you know, not everybody could be getting these specific things that they talk about, or, you know, there's so many people and there's such a dynamic. Now, you guys, I'm sure, witnessed it all the way through. So what was that kind of like going from then to now, and how does that make you think about paranormal differently than you did back then? That's a rough question. I know it's a long one.
It is, because my mind's going back to 1999. You know what I mean? When, you know, all I had to rely on was things that I've learned, that I was self-taught through research, and I'm still an avid reader. I mean, Dave for Christmas gave me even more books. You know what I mean? I'm reading constantly because I just think knowledge is just your best weapon in everything, everyday life. But, you know, back then, you know, I can recall going on my first investigation 22 years ago, like it was yesterday. And, you know, the only thing that I had with me was a voice recorder and an 8mm camera, a video camera. And I had 1, 2, 3 friends with me. And it was actually their idea, you know, hey, we're thinking about doing this, and we know you study this and research this kind of crap. Why don't you go with us? And I was like, yeah, okay. And you're right, Rob. It wasn't something that, you know, was talked about around the dinner table like tonight. You know what I mean? And everybody had at least with people I dealt with, had the wrong misconception that when you're out there looking for ghosts or you're evil, and that you're inviting or you're looking for evil.
You're part of the devil.
And unfortunately, where we're located at, I mean, that's the way people viewed it. Like, as soon as you say paranormal or ghost hunt, or, you know, people automatically would label it like
you're a crackpot,
or you know, it's something demonic. You're trying to, you know, raise the devil, and that's not, that's, you know,
you're into witchcraft. And now it's like, the way I tell people is, you're driving down the road. As you're driving down the road, you're the driver, you're looking straight ahead in front of you. You don't see all the stuff whizzing by you. But in the paranormal, when you are the passenger or you stop and take a look around, you start seeing things. And the paranormal has been here forever, for a long time. We're just not looking at it. Now that people are bringing it to the attention, hey, look at that beautiful hill over there. Hey, look at that farmhouse over there. Look at the cow down there. Now you stop and look. Oh, wow. What is that moving out there, that black shadow? Oh, what is that gray mist down there? Wait a minute. What's that voice I just...
And see, you know what I always think, Rob and Dave, is, especially with dealing, we love skeptics, man.
Oh, I love
we love to convert.
I got a skeptic story.
We love to convert skeptics, okay? And if you make people see the scientific or the spiritual side of this field, you have a better chance of converting them, so to speak.
Yep.
And, you know, what I always think when you know, I'll meet, like, we do a lot of seminars, and, you know, I'll say, how many people here have never experienced something paranormal? And the hands go up. And I'm thinking to myself while I'm speaking, how many paranormal experiences have they actually had, and just their brain's not programmed to pick up on it? You know what I mean?
Very true. Very true.
The best comparison I can make, I'm getting ready to start my, oh, God help me, my 24th year as a cop. And, you know, like, when people hear the word profiling, the first thing they think, racial profiling. But in reality, profiling does not, there's so many forms of profiling.
So many facets to it.
Yeah, that, you know, we can sit, and profiling means being able to see somebody walk down the street based on their mannerisms or their actions. I could tell you if they have a gun on them.
Yep,
you know what I mean? Yeah, there's so many points of profiling.
It's detail oriented in the sense that you're able to see these things.
Yeah, like for example, I used to work in a very, very high drug area. And the people that was out there looking and waiting to buy drugs, you could tell by the way they walked, whether they were walking to get them or walking to get the heck out of there because they just got them, you know?
Right.
And that I look at it, the paranormal the same way. When you train your mind to know what you're looking for, it's the same thing, you know, and we open up a lot of our public investigations that we do with telling everybody to use all of your senses, all 5 senses, because the paranormal can affect and communicate with any one of them. But you just have to be ready because it happens quickly. You know, does that make sense?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the thing about what you were talking about profiling was you were detail oriented to catch on to specific patterns that happen during human condition. So that is the most sound advice you can give to anybody, is being able to know how your equipment works, right? So when things do happen anomalously, you're able to catch it. And then what you can always do is, like myself, I am so into the science of it, but also the spiritual side. And it's difficult to decipher sometimes where my brain wants to go first. You know what I mean? Whether it's spiritual or scientific. But once you train yourself to be super skeptical and scientific, you can decipher between what is pattern of some type of entity that is doing what it's doing, or if it's maybe your eyes playing tricks on you, your ears playing tricks on you, because those things happen too. But when you get and you hone your craft into the sense that you see these patterns more and more often, sometimes the camera doesn't catch it. It's almost a rule of thumb, the camera won't catch it most of the time, just because, you know, we are who we are and we put cameras up, but we're also doing other things and paying attention in different ways. So I understand what that means. And I think that that's sound advice to almost train your senses to be able to pick these things up. Otherwise, like you're saying, you're going to miss something, and that could be that pivotal thing that gives you, whether it's maybe there is activity, maybe there's not activity.
And see, the point of using the term profiling was, you know, job related. If someone was used the term profiling, everyone's mind goes one direction. Paranormal used to be the same way. When you would say paranormal, oh shit, the devil. You know, that's just where it would go. But you have to open your mind up and understand what it means and exactly what you're doing. You know what I mean? It's
I understand that.
You know, you can tell if someone's walking through an amusement park and has to go to the bathroom just by the way they're moving and walking. And that's the same with everything.
But you just got to watch for and know what you're looking for.
Right.
And that takes training too. It also takes experience most of the time, I think, because, you know, well, maybe not so much experience because you can catch it on the first time, but to know if you caught it properly, you know what I mean? Like not properly, but as long with the practice, you get to see it more and more. I guess it won't be like a quick flash and then you don't know what happened, you know, because I remember, you know, when starting off, sometimes something like that might happen. And I was so inexperienced that I'm like, wait a minute, did that just happen?
Did that happen? Right.
Does that just happen? And I kind of like didn't understand all of what was happening because of that. But with time and experience, it tended to be a little bit better, a little bit easier. And I think that's awesome. So let's go into go ahead.
Let me. So what? A couple things that we do in our seminar is one of the things I teach. A lot of people don't know I'm actually a lay minister with the United Methodist Church. So I take the spiritual side as well as the scientific side and try to hone them together where people will understand. So if you actually take the spiritual side, you know, for the Christians that are out there, you know, Jesus died on the cross, Jesus rose from the cross, Jesus rose the dead. You know, so that happens as per the Bible. That's thousands of years worth. You know, they talk about, you know, different people rising up from the dead. In the scientific side, we know that the body produces energy that can actually be metered. So scientifically, we can meter that energy. We also know scientifically that energy cannot be destroyed. It can be augmented, it can be changed, it can be redirected, but it cannot be destroyed. So if the body makes energy, what happens to that energy when the body dies? Can that energy be redirected in another way?
Absolutely. I truly believe that.
Together, you're going to come up with a very, very, very profound and prolific epiphany.
I agree with that. And the crazy thing that if we want to expand on that further is, like we always talk about senses, and your senses are formed because of the way you interpret things, and your energy helps that too. So, that's when that transfer happens to that specific anybody's like just like individuals here on this planet now that are alive, each entity will have its own individuality because no transfer is the same. Like, some entities are able to touch things. Some entities are able to change the temperature, or, I think they all have a little bit of like a different type of feel to them. And that's one of the things that I think is important too, is when you go into these investigations to make sure at least somebody in the group has a knowledge of what that place was before that entity either roamed there, or what caused that, basically what caused the action of happening that made it an entity to begin with.
That's the difference between a paranormal investigator and a paranormal researcher. I'll tell you, I'm a paranormal investigator. He's a paranormal researcher.
I would say I'm a researcher then, because I love to know. But Melinda is the investigator because she can go in, but not only does she have 5 senses, she has 6.
Yep.
Because she's that medium and she can do that. That's what makes us, I think, a really, like you have low tech and high tech, and we have spirit and like research. You know what I mean? Like there's a dynamic that we have, because I think of things, I'm good at talking and I'm quick on my feet, but while she's talking to the entities, she'll communicate, and I'll be like, ask him this, ask him that, kind of nudge him a little bit. So maybe we can get not like a reaction in a bad way, in a respectful way, but the right prompts to possibly get that basically that response.
Yep. I mean, you were talking earlier about skeptics, and we love skeptics, and I got to give you this one story that we ran into. We had a big seminar at Haldeman Mansion up in Bainbridge, Pennsylvania, and this one guy walks up to me and he's a professed skeptic. He says the only reason why he's here is his wife. Everything we're doing is BS, whatever. And I said to him, look, I'm going to make you a promise. I'm going to promise you I'm going to show you something tonight. I'm not going to show you a ghost. I'm going to show you something here you can't explain. That is my promise to you. And at the end of the night, I'm going to come to you and I'm going to ask you, did I show you something? He's like, whatever. He goes, I know your equipment's rigged, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, all right, you just follow the yellow brick road. So we go upstairs on the second floor. He's in my group and his wife's in my group. He breaks off to the left. I head for a window straight in front of me. I put a couple flashlights up there. I put a REM pod up there, a K2 meter. I have a yes-no box, a whole bunch of things in the window. He's off to the left. He has this Coleman lantern that has a turn knob on the top. He puts in the lantern, turns it down in the window, sits there. And there's a known spirit there. His name's Jacob. Jacob is playful. He'll play with the equipment in the window. He's great. And I'm like, Jacob, Mr. Dave, how you been, buddy? Long time no see. Hey, I missed you. Long winter, blah, blah, blah. By the way, this guy over here doesn't believe you're here. Can you come over here and turn on one of my lights for me? His light turned on. Click. His reaction was like,
you didn't do that. You didn't do that. That's what they think after that. And I think it's good to be a skeptic too. I think it's a good thing. Like my research, or when I'm finding, let's say, not to interrupt you, but when I'm finding some kind of action while we're out there, I'm a skeptic that even happened until I can go back, look at it 2 or 3 times, because I'm a skeptic of my own work. You know what I mean?
Well, I try to run my investigations with what I call Occam's razor. Cut everything else that's away that you can. What's left, no matter how improbable, must be the truth.
Well, tell him what his reaction was.
He actually, the dude, he picks up his lantern, goes out the back door where we were at. You hear him walking down the steps, and the front door of the mansion slam. So we finished our investigation up there. I go out to the truck, go looking for him, found him out by his truck. I'm like, first of all, are you okay? He's like, oh, yeah. I'm like, I'm going to ask you, as I promised, did I show you something you can't explain? He goes, oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I said, would you like to come back in and join us? Mm-hmm. He goes, no, I'm okay. I'm like, well, why not? He goes, because that effing place is haunted.
Oh, you turned him out. You're like, oh, that's it.
Rob, you got to figure, Dave took his 2 little mag lights out and turned them just so they would go off and easily set them on the windowsill. And, this guy turns his lantern off and sets it over there out of play. And Dave said, "Could you, turn one of these lights on?" And immediately the
His light
lantern
came on like
the lantern
that.
came on.
And
it was his too, so he couldn't even say anything. He was probably white as a
the
ghost.
guy's mouth hit
White
the
as a ghost.
ground. It was beautiful. It was like just his look. And he looks at the lantern, looks at me, looks at the lantern, looks at me, didn't say a word, picks it up, and just walked out.
I'll tell you.
We I know you want to move on, but one
No, go ahead, man. I love these stories. Keep going.
We hosted a public investigation at a very, very old house in York, Pennsylvania. Now, we had a bunch of, it was before the pandemic, and I mean, it sold out, I think, in 3 days.
Yep.
So literally people are coming up and knocking on the door of this house, and we're letting them in. So I open the door, and there's like 4 people standing there, and this lady goes, "Oh, I think we're in the wrong place." And I said, "Well, what are you looking for?" And she goes, "My friends here are taking me to a haunted house." And I'm like, "Oh, you're in the right place.
Come on in."
Well, what they did, Rob, this woman does not like the paranormal. She don't believe in the paranormal. It's all a bunch of crap and a waste of time. And so they told her they were taking her to a haunted house.
Yep.
So she's thinking a Halloween attraction.
Right.
So cut through the chase. Later that night, we're in the bedroom and we're running a Phasma box, and we have one of our medium friends there, and activity's kicking up. And this woman had one of the little mag lights, and it was turned off, but just sitting on the floor.
In the middle of the floor between her legs.
And she's sitting Indian style, and the flashlight's on the floor. And, we're doing the typical, could you knock on the wall, whatever. All of a sudden, Rob, this woman's flashlight just rolled off into the middle of the floor.
By itself, all by
She
itself.
lost it.
She got up, never said a word, straightened her shirt, didn't even pick her flashlight up,
Kept
and
going.
left.
They can have that one. I'm out. I've never had that moment yet, but I'm waiting for it. That one moment that just shakes to the core, and you're like, "Okay, I give in. You're right. I'm out of here. I haven't gotten there yet, but hopefully soon." I mean, that would be great. That would be great. So let's get into some other stories you guys have. I know you guys got plenty of stories. Tell us how Paranormal Inc. What was the idea behind it? What's the what are you guys looking to do with that specific group other than just, Step Into Paranormal? Is there motivation for it? So let us know a little bit more about it.
Well, like I said, I was with a team, and they were fairly large. I think it was either 9 or 11 members. And I got to the point in the paranormal field where I just wanted to do other things than just go out and pay and investigate somewhere. And, I come up with this idea that, because I had been to other events, and, I seen the way other people were coming into the field. And, I got talking to Dave, and, not that we're not saying we're any better than anyone else, because we're not. But I said, Dave, I want to start educating people.
There's so much more we can do with it.
Yeah. And I want to take this a step further. You know what I mean? And I would like to work on speaking to people, and, people that's never done this, but because I love the people that have the passion and really want to investigate for the right reasons, for the knowledge, to help the spirits. And, Dave and I just come to the point where we wanted to start doing, so to speak, like seminars and leading investigate. Well, I mean, we always, dreamed about, we would love to lead a public investigation and just teach people and show them. And sure enough, once Paranormal Inc. formed, it just started coming our way. Like a week later, we were hosting our first public investigation
and a seminar up at Haldeman.
Yeah, and we weren't new to the field, but we were new to being solo,
right,
and taking it in this direction.
Yeah, and how we came up with the name is because he's a current police officer. I'm a former police officer. PI, we were thinking, private investigator. Well, no, not private. And as soon as he said private investigator, I went, how about paranormal investigator? PR, Paranormal Incorporated. And he goes, I like that. So it kind of, they just thought, so because we wanted to do the seminars, sort of, as a training, things like that. Hey, you guys really helped me. Thank you. Hi, Christy.
And that's the way, like someone just the other night one of my friends who knew about us switching to Roku TV asked me about the name of our show, Step Into the Paranormal. And where we came up with that name for the radio show is that's the name of our first seminar we did. It was entitled Step Into the Paranormal, and it was like a paranormal 101. We explained the types of haunts, the who, what, where, when, and whys, and this is your basic equipment. And Dave would pass it around and
let people touch it,
people play with it and figure it out. And then after a small break and some refreshments, it's like, guess what, guys? We're going on a 4-hour investigation.
It's time.
You're
about to get your feet wet, and let's get to it. But I think,
and we would hand the equipment out to the people to let them play with it and let them understand why it's doing what it's doing.
That's the biggest part. That to me is understanding why each equipment is doing what it's doing, even down to the properties of it, is one of the most important things that you could really, information you can really have.
And the thing that I like to stay on track with, Rob, and our closed Facebook page, Paranormal Inc. I started that 6 years ago when it was originally named American Ghost Hunters. And the reason I started that page was to try to bring everyone together, from all different states, hey, this is who I am. This is the team I belong with. This is the investigation we went on. Here's some evidence, and the primary function of that page was just to get everyone together, no judgment. Hey, what is this? What does this look like? And then once Dave and I teamed up and started Paranormal Inc., out of respect, for Dave, we changed the name of the page to Paranormal Inc. Yep. But my point being, and this, right now it just seems like the biggest problem in the paranormal field is paranormal competition. Yep. And I don't like that, man. We're all in this. Everyone's in it for different reasons.
See if you could read that. This is our motto right here. One love.
One love.
Yep.
I thought it said I love, but then I'm like, nope, that's a one.
People are in it in the field for different reasons, but if you trace those real reasons back, we're all in it for the same reason.
Yes.
And you got to keep that in mind, man. Let's share the knowledge. Let's share the experiences. You know what I mean? And if everyone works together, look at where we can go with this. Yeah. If everyone's on the same team, what I mean?
If you think about this right now, if we went back 200, 300 years and you say fell on a stick and impaled your leg, what's most likely going to happen?
You're going to get your leg cut off.
You're going to die off or die of an infection. All right. Because the medical field was in its infancy back then.
Mm-hmm.
Fast forward to today, you fall on it. Most likely you're going to go through a couple months of therapy, sew it back together. You'll be fine. All right. Same thing with the paranormal field. Right now, we are in our infancy. We're just learning, what is an EM field? What is a EVP? So we're trying to find better ways to get these. And I wish I could step in 300 years from now just to see, because I have a feeling, hey, great grandmother, how you been? I love you. I miss you. I wish I could have met you. Yeah, cool. I fully expect that.
I agree with you. And I think one of the big things that you guys do is pass that information on. One of the things is always that, they say the student becomes a teacher eventually, because when you guys take what you've learned, give that to somebody else, and then they come back to you with some different idea of how they learned it from you, it truly connects dots. And for us to figure out but for us to find out what this truly is at its core, it's going to take a mass amount of people. It's going to take a mass amount of dots that come connecting together. And I believe in that myself. That's why I try and stay down that middle rut. There's nobody I won't work with. There's nobody that is too big for me to work with. I'm here to work with everybody and anybody, no matter what the situation or what the baggage is in it. Ego has to be left at the door when you walk into these houses. Amen. Not only are you walking into a dangerous situation if you don't approach it right, you're also going to get into an emotionally charged situation where other aspects of your emotional imbalances can come into play, and everybody has them. And also you're walking into a situation where you don't know what it is. no matter what you say you think it is. There's
Right.
no definitive, actual scientific evidence that spits exactly what it is to you.
Right.
Therefore, you don't know what you're looking out for. So you
Absolutely.
have to be on high alert. You have to be into the game, and you have to love it, because they will, the other side, after that veil, they can pick up on all that and turn your night into a living hell if they
Amen.
think you're there for the wrong reasons.
And see, that's one of the things about the scientific community doesn't really believe in paranormal because they can't prove it with the scientific method. It's not a reproducible experiment that they can prove or disprove with. But it's like trying to hit a moving target the same way every time. You're not going to do it. It's going to change every time. So there's no real experiment you can do over and over and over again to prove or disprove.
And I can tell you, after hundreds of investigations in different locations, different states, whatever the case may be, if I was to go somewhere, if I was to get up from this table right now and go somewhere and investigate, I can almost guarantee you I will learn something that I don't know right now sitting here. You know what I mean? It's every time you get out of your car and you walk into that venue, you're walking out with a new piece of knowledge. Even if nothing happens,
even if it's the same venue over and over and over
even
again.
if nothing happens while you're there,
Yep.
you're still learning maybe why it didn't happen,
Yep.
or what could have caused it to be less active than that. So you're always walking away with a key piece of evidence to something. You just have to
look at it for face value.
Yeah, exactly. You kind of have to know what to look for. And you made a good point, Rob. And for example, let's say the three of us were in a location right now and we're doing some EVP work, and you ask a question, Rob, like, whatever, can you identify yourself or let us know you're here? Well, later on, when we do evidence review, you get a direct response to all three of us that sounds like a woman. That woman answered you. Now, being the skeptic that I am, did we capture something that wasn't physically there with us? Absolutely. There was no women with us. But on the other hand, prove to me that it was a ghost. You can't do it.
Right.
All we got at this point is something come across that recorder that sounds like a woman, and we all three heard the same damn answer. And it's left there. We have no way of proving what it was, who it was, why it was.
He has an EVP from Haldeman Mansion. It was him, another Dave, and another guy who were there. And they were talking about the spirit I was talking about earlier, Jacob. And basically they were talking about the room. And as they talked about it, you hear this little girl go, Jacob? You hear her. Clear as day, Class A EVP. And there was no children there and no girls there.
No, it was girls there, but it was all adults.
Oh, adult. I mean children.
Yeah.
Right.
No children there. But it was an adult party. So, and you could hear it's a child speaking. Can I prove there was a ghost there? No,
but you can say that there's something going on there. You have evidence that something that you can't explain has happened. So now, and that's the part of skepticism, and that's a great thing.
I don't know, sometimes as investigators, of course, we look at things differently than a skeptic. And, for example, there's been claims over the years, and I'm going to touch on the religious side of it for a second, certain Virgin Mary statues that move or that cry tears or whatever. Okay. Certain people, certain followers believe it's a certain message. Now, you may have the scientists come in and say, scientifically, we can reproduce using whatever chemical or oil, based on what the statue was constructed of hundreds of years ago. To make that look like it's crying blood. Fine. I believe that. However, suppose it is a true supernatural or miraculous message coming from up above, and they're using those elements to create that event. So at one point, the scientists have their theory, where all along everyone else has their theory, when both of them are right. And it's the same like when electrical things happen. Okay, it could have been a short, it could have been this, it could have been that, it could have been a million things. Maybe that energy is using that to produce that message they want across.
That's an awesome way to look at it. And sometimes people have a problem deciphering between that. They think one way is better than the other when they're truly both equally important down the line. And, that's to me, one of the things I love the most is EVP, because to me, I don't know why, but I feel like it's almost direct communication in a way, that I could, that like mediums or psychics, they have the ability to do that without that EVP equipment. So when I get that, it's sort of like on their level. And I think that's truly awesome. Awesome. So let's get into like some of the either craziest moments you guys have had or some of the ones that totally just blew your mind. A moment that just like, you were like, all right, that is what it is. I can't even explain it.
What you want me?
All right,
let me do it.
As far as crazy, elaborate.
All right. I'm going to go with the all right. Everybody has a fight or flight reflex. Everybody. All right. Usually as a police officer, you're actually trained to fight. We were here at a location and we were actually the prize of a radio show. And we had several people there that won the prize and they brought a friend, several DJs from the radio station, several producers, and Ernie is about 3 feet in front of me. We have equipment on the floor. And I have a young lady attached to my arm right here, holding on to me because she's scared. And I'm in a doorway right below it. And I hear right behind me, turn on my flashlight. Nothing. All right. A couple seconds later, you hear.
Okay, let's look again. What the hell is that? All right.
A couple seconds later, you hear what sounds like a handful of pebbles dropping. And what the heck is going on in here? So about the fourth or fifth time of this, just as I'm turning the flashlight off and I shove it into my belt, Christina, the guest, grabs hold of my arm. And now these are major plaster walls. So they're thick plaster. They don't move. We actually had some people saying, could this have been faked? And we went back and showed. I was actually hit the wall with my shoulder. There's no way. It sounded like a truck hit the wall right next to me.
Oh, my God.
It sounded like, and the whole mansion went like this. My reaction was, I went that way.
Right.
But I had Christina in tow and Christina's friend in tow. Everybody else in the room went that way. Ernie went like this. He was right in front of me. Now I'm like this. This landed right there. I went down to run, and he had time to look up, and I clipped him.
Oh, man.
He's walking around the room going, oh, my God, you broke my nose.
I went completely off of my feet because I stood my ground because I didn't want Dave to run over the equipment. You know what I mean?
Right.
It was so dark, I don't think he realized I was there.
I didn't. I hit him like a linebacker with my forehead right in his beak. You could actually see the birds going around his head.
That's crazy.
After we kind of settled him down, we went into that room where everything was going on, and our equipment kept going nuts. Can't explain it. So the next day, we had another investigation at the haunted trails in Gettysburg.
Did you post this on PI?
Somebody
said they can't find it.
Yeah, it's right in the thing. There's a link, yes. He comes up with these big old Stevie Wonder glasses. And I'm like, dude, what's up with the glasses? And he goes, he looked like a raccoon.
Oh, man.
I got him good.
That's crazy. I did it to my cousin by accident. We were playing flag football, and I got I guess I got blocked, and my head, like the side of my head, hit his clavicle bone. I broke his whole stuff over there, man. It was pretty bad. It was pretty bad. But so I what I was doing is I sent you guys a couple of articles a little bit throughout the week. I sent it to Ernie because I was looking at I found this one thing, and this is what I want to say it to you guys. I want to get your reaction from it. Now, this article is essentially about this guy. He's just saying whether, things that he finds, are they real? Are they not real? He's really questioning it. And he's a skeptic. So I'm going to read this to you. And it's just basically, he hates saying this and he's cringing because the one statement I get from others when I question their data, which happens whenever you're on an investigation, especially when you guys split up, you question each other's data, right? And he reads articles and blogs on the topics of hauntings and EVP all the time because of debunking something, and he enjoys doing it and it redirects us onto a path of paranormal research as opposed to investigation. And if we stop acknowledging the fluff and the garbage, it might lead us to some answers and explanations. Do you feel that when he's saying this, that he's actually on the right path by, if we kind of can get rid of some of this fluff that people think maybe might be or not be, with some more sound evidence that people have been, it's been verified, shall we say? Do you think that ultimately it's going to bring us to that answer that we're looking for? Or is that fluff important too?
I don't believe in sugarcoating or exaggerating anything. If you're left with, if you exhaust every avenue and something can't be recreated or whatever the case may be, I mean, you're more likely to have somebody believe what you're presenting to them. Now, don't get me wrong. I mean, no matter what the reason is that we're investigating, we all want that high. You know what I mean? We want that one piece of evidence. We want that photo, that audio. But at a certain point, your mind can start matrixing and making even you believe something's not what it is. And you always have to keep that in mind and rule that out. Because, if you keep, for lack of a better term, keep crying wolf, when you do come up with something good, it's going to be questioned.
Yep.
That's why you gotta keep it 100% all the time.
Try to disprove, try to debunk, try to figure out how it can be normal first.
Right.
Again, back to Occam's razor. Cut everything else away that you can, and what's left, no matter how improbable, has to be the truth.
Right.
Right. And one of the things that, that gets me too is a lot of these people, they achieve some sort of, let's say fame in a sense, or renownment. And people see what they do. And some of the time, and I hate to say this, it's not genuine. They are playing these things because they have this, and people take it as what it is, in the sense of they're getting something that's, special or different, and this fluff really, it infringes on what we're trying to do more than those people actually think. They're using this renownment rather than using it as an asset. They're using it as something that can damn us all. In a sense.
I'm gonna use a quote that Dave uses when we're hosting a public event. Most of the people that come to him, some of the folks are genuine investigators. Some are there for the spook factor. You know what I mean? And that's all good, man. That's why we do it. We want everybody to have fun. But one thing that Dave always says before we start is, I can't promise that I'm going to show you a ghost, but I guarantee you will walk out of here scratching your head, saying, what the hell was that?
Yep.
Yeah.
But that's important, and that disclaimer at the very beginning to say that is what's truly important, because people, they don't realize that, we're not willing anything to happen. It's happening on its own, and that's the way it has to be. It can't be us. It can't be us trying to find something that's not there.
Right.
And I think that that's important.
Well, that's why I'm happy to hand them my equipment, because that one guy swore that my equipment was rigged and whatever. I'll hand you my equipment. I have a box. It's a yes/no box. And, I tell people in the investigations, remember, if you're on a public event, they've heard, tell me your name. Tell me how you died. Ask them some weird questions to see if you get reaction. And we weren't really getting anything. And this one girl looked up and goes, is Dave full of bullshit? Just like that. all the equipment went off at one time. And she like beat herself laughing. And at that point, because the energy came up, we started getting answers like that.
You know, people have to keep in mind when they're trying to make contact with something, whether they're called in on a serious case or they're just out ghost hunting on a public event. Speak to that entity just like we're speaking.
Just like you would.
You know what I mean? Because they're nothing but a person, just like we are. Talk to them about things like that.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Don't provoke. Never, never. I'm going to tell you and you and you and you out there, do not provoke. Because all you're going to get is bad juju coming back at you.
Yeah.
That's right. Karma works after the fact. You know, after they've departed, it still works.
Yeah. I mean, the way I tell people, if you come into a house and you go, hi, thank you for letting me in your house. I love your house. Can you show me around a little bit? Or if I come into your house and go, hey, what the hell are you doing here? Answer me now. Which way are you going to get a really good reaction off of?
And it's not so much, you know, when we say provoke, we don't, you know, of course you don't want to provoke nothing evil.
No.
But, you know, when we use the term provoke, we mean across the board. You want to just have respect.
Yeah.
You know, even if you're investigating somewhere where, you know, the person that once lived there or died there wasn't the best person.
Right.
They weren't always that way. When they were born innocent.
Right.
Treat them with respect. You know,
I agree with that. And the thing I think about that too is having a historian in a group is important because you're able to come up with a strategy so you're not stepping over that line once going into these places too. You know, you don't want to try. Sometimes, you know, people don't take into consideration what actually has happened, and then they go into this room that's gung ho where something terrible happens, and what they have, like, let's say the person had shot themselves and they have this specific machine that looks almost like a gun. They don't realize that maybe that's not the best thing to do using that in that specific room. There has to be a game plan from start to finish, and it has to be followed to the T in those moments. And I truly think that that's also going to get you your best evidence in that moment because you're taking consideration, and they feel that. I truly believe that the other side feels that when you do that. You know, you don't want to be a bull in a china shop.
Also, take into consideration that, you know, depending where you're investigating at, doesn't necessarily mean the responses you're going to get have to do with where you're at. Like, best example I can think of right away is if you're investigating somewhere like Gettysburg, you're automatically going to think, you know, field hospitals, soldiers, Union, Confederate, you know, guns, where in reality, someone may have a message for you and you're there and you're in the right frame of mind. And that spirit may know, oh, shoot, this is why they're here. Yep. Now's a good time to get that message across.
Absolutely.
So always have an open mind. And remember, spirits can travel. You know, they're not under the same time zone, so to speak, that we are. And just because you're at a battlefield or you're in a house where someone was murdered, that doesn't necessarily mean that's the response you're going to get.
Yeah, we've run into that several times. Yeah. Dreama Weber, who's Mike King's wife, she was on one of our investigations at the Heritage Museum, Fire and Police Museum up north of us. And we got direct response directed at her, very specific details that she stared crying about.
That Mike didn't even know.
Mike didn't even know
about. And I actually wound up taking Dreama outside to get her some fresh air and regroup. And I sat her down and I said, you know, explain to me what you're feeling, what triggered you. Mm-hmm. And she started telling me this story like that happened with her in the past. And holy cow, Rob, all our evidence and everything, we were
right on the nose.
Right on the nose. Yeah. And
I think that's crazy too. And the funny thing is that goes back to like this saying that it's not always the place that's haunted. It's what you need to see it when you need to see it in that sense. Or like Gettysburg. I've truly believed that Gettysburg is just this place where residual energy is always present because of the horrific things that happen there, that when you step into there, your psyche becomes enveloped in it, which opens up these channels to the other side that may not be there if you're just doing a regular investigation because of the power of the energy.
There's so many natural materials in Gettysburg that can hold and house that energy. Yep. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
We were on investigation, world's largest ghost hunt in Gettysburg at the Dave Stewart Farm. And I was out in the field. We actually had a video camera going. And, I'm thinking, Civil War, blah, blah, blah. And I put an Echo Vox up, and I'm like, so who is this? And you hear this is John. I'm like, John, did you live here? Yes. I said, John, what do you do? And he said, Minuteman. And I had to think for a second. Wait a minute.
Oh.
Minuteman's not Civil War. I'm like,
it's a militia. It's Revolutionary War.
What happened, John? And you hear him go, I died. And I'm like, the whole group's hearing this. And I'm like, so I said, did you have a family? Yeah. And what happened to them? They died too. Ah! And it stopped.
Well, that same night, because Dave had a group and I had a group, and I was out in the field. And the group I had was small. It was, I believe it was 2 other gentlemen and 2 females. And Christina, the one that was on Dave's arm when he damn near knocked me unconscious, she was there. And we were running whatever piece of a spirit box, whatever. I don't know exactly which one. We have everything recorded now. But whatever we were making contact with called me out by name. So I knew it was time to elaborate on this. So I said, if you know me, then you know my mother's name. Well, it gave me, my mother goes by her middle name, but it gave me my mother's first proper name.
Wow.
Well, then I went even further. I said, what is my father's name? It said my father's nickname. And I said, okay, if you know so much about me, where do I live? Now, I live in Brooklyn Park, Anne Arundel County. And the response I got was Brooklyn. And the people there were like, why is it doing this? And I was like, on a serious note, guys, I'm like, I think someone has a message for me. And what better time than to get me this message than when my brain is in this mode, because Dave and I are so preoccupied with entertaining and educating other people that maybe, it was time that one of us had a message coming and we were ignoring it. Well, lo and behold, when because I haven't seen my parents in a very long time, like a day or two later, one of my cousins had contacted me and said that my father was really sick, that, he's developed this, whatever, over the years. And, in my mind, Rob, that's what I think someone was trying to let me know. You know what I mean?
That's incredible too. And the thing about it is too, when you get those messages, especially when you're doing what you guys do with these public events and teaching other people, sometimes you lose the fun by making sure that they're having a good time. And I bet you that message brought you back to like, okay, maybe I need to, do a little bit more of having fun with this too. Mm-hmm. And it happens to everybody, sometimes life gets crazy. You go on an investigation. It's just not what you had in mind for that weekend, but you did it anyway, and you're not always there. So I would tell you, try and not go to those places during those times. But then again, I wouldn't say don't either, because you might get that message like you got that you needed to hear that day. So it's like, it's always like an up and down too. That leads me to one of my other questions is that what if you could go to one place across the whole world to investigate the way you wanted to investigate, where would it be and how would you go about investigating it? It's a big question. It's a long one too.
I would go to the Skinwalker Ranch. Boom.
I started this journey in paranormal by being a very committed researcher in religion. I personally would want to go somewhere where over the years people have had visions or, alleged, miraculous experiences have happened. And I would go totally old school. Man, I would have nothing but a digital camera and a voice recorder. And I'd be set.
So someplace that almost has never been investigated, but there have been strange occurrences. Is that what you mean?
Oh, I mean, however many times it's been investigated, to me, Rob, really, it doesn't matter. But I would like to go something like in to Fatima in Portugal.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
I would like to go to Lourdes, or maybe somewhere over close to the Vatican in Rome. You know, as you know, and I was just laughing with Dave about it. I've in the concluding stages of writing my first book, and there's a little passage I do in there about the sighting at Fatima, and you know how that plays into different things. And I'm so fascinated with those stories, and just, you know, there's so many stories in religion where people have had sightings, and, you know, spirits visit them, and for whatever reason. And that's basically what got me into this in the first place. You know, I mean, back in the beginning, I had no intention whatsoever of investigating. I was just so enthralled with the whole, you know, spirit realm. And the more I read and the more I educated myself, the happier of a person I was. You know what I mean? I had no idea it would lead me down this path. Yep. So to answer your question, I would have to go somewhere spiritual.
That's awesome.
Yep. Mine is Skinwalker Ranch. I've been asked this question probably 10 times, and it's the same answer, because they have not only paranormal there, they have cryptids there, they have aliens there, they have just the whole ball of wax there. And it's not just, you know, the shows that are doing it. This has been under investigation since the early 60s.
This is what if you ever go to Skinwalker Ranch, Rob, this is what we're going to do.
I'll be there with you guys. You'll tell me. I'm going to be there with you.
What we're going to do, we're going to send our drone up, and we're going to send Dave out in one of the fields by himself.
Yep.
Now, because when Dave heard and almost killed me, when he sees a skinwalker, I just want us from an aerial view seeing his fat ass run across that field by himself.
So, you know, where are you?
That would be funny as shit. I'm not going to lie about it, but that, you know,
boy, run that fast. Come on now.
I would run on the water if I had to, if I was scared like that. You kidding me? I got long legs. I'm 6'1". I can definitely gain distance. That's for sure.
UFO going by, and then you see a skinwalker on the branch, I'd be leaving footprints on his back.
That's a fact. That's a fact. See, that's cool though, because I started with UFOs. You know, I was so into ufology and UFOs, but as I dug deeper, you know, with the UFOs, it turned into cryptids and paranormal, because there's this happening that places that have never been, I guess that even through history, they were never haunted, or there was never any action there, or entity or strange things. All of a sudden, through the 60s, it started to get this activity. Like these ley lines just came to life.
Yep.
And I believe that the UFOs has something to do with the Bigfoot, because the Bigfoot is almost like an interdimensional being as opposed to extraterrestrial. It could just hop and phase in and out of dimensions, you know?
Rob,
so
I have a question for you.
Go ahead.
I've had one experience in my life in 1987 where I saw something in the sky. I've watched multiple shows on UFOs and all that stuff. As recent as just a few years ago, up until 40 years ago, people have seen the same exact thing that I think I saw. I saw it before I even heard these stories. And just about 3 years ago, a friend of mine who's on a paranormal team, and she's a medium, she called me up and was telling me about something that she saw. And just so happens it's the same thing I saw in 87. I got to get with you, you know, one-on-one and give you my thoughts and hear what you have to say. Because to this day, I still have no idea what the heck it was that I saw.
Well, absolutely. Absolutely. I've researched so many. I have literally gone like the gambit of MUFON. I don't know if you know what MUFON is, the Mutual UFO Network. I have literally like looked at case files. I think it's from like 1972 almost to like 2001, 2002. I haven't gotten past there yet because I started to do more paranormal stuff. But I literally sat there for just hours a day reading case file, case file, case file, case file. I have. It's not like I'm not to be conceited with knowledge on it, but there's so many similarities and patterns that happen between these occurrences, especially when they're in like the same area. It's the most wildest thing you've seen too. It's like some of them that are like exactly 10 years apart, but like a day or two off.
Right.
And they're like approximately 10 miles from each other, and then another 10 miles from that in 10 years. There's so many synchronicities as you go through it that it'll make your head spin.
Well,
it's the coolest thing.
84 to 88, I was an operations specialist in the U.S. Navy. USS.
There you go.
You got your paranormal ink hat.
Oh, do I? Oh, sorry. I usually have my military hat on, so I'm like, also, he's like, my job was radar tracking and navigation, and the government is just starting to release like the videos, like the Tic Tac video and those kind of videos. Those contacts have been going on for many years. Those sightings have been going on for many years. When you have, a CVN class aircraft carrier that has different kind of weapons on them that potentially could be attractive to other, you could be investigated. And yes, there are camera footages, there are radar trackings, there are NTDS trackings, there are other fire control radars that have tracked these kind of vehicles coming close to a battle group. So, I love how they're just coming out now saying, I think the reason why they're coming out is they're kind of letting us know, kind of getting us prepped that eventually in the next 10 years or so, we're going to have an alien landing and they're going to be like, oh, hi, they're friendly. No, you've known that for years. Come on now.
That's true, and it's funny that because like they don't even call it UFOs anymore. Now it's UAPs, unidentified aerial phenomena.
Yep.
Well, they did that also because a lot of what they were doing was experimental terrestrial craft, like the TRB-8 and these other different triangle crafts that they were literally trying to figure out the functionality of this triangle because people are seeing all these triangles and if it would work.
What I saw was a triangle.
Mm-hmm.
It had lights that went straight down it like this, right? Almost like a dove flying in a painting or like a bird flying in a painting in the distance.
It looked like an off-white LED lights, but in the tip of the point was one red light.
They've said that too, and it's crazy because, one of the things that I believe, I forget which actor saw the lights over Phoenix.
Hold that for a sec. Jerson, Alia, contact Ernie or me. We can get you the merch.
Yeah, I was going to say, Jay, message me. We got the merchandise.
Yep.
Yeah, baby. Get that merch, kids. Get that merch. It's worth it. It's worth it.
We have beanie caps as well.
That's awesome. I'm gonna get one too. No, but like what happens is that this gentleman, I forget which actor it was. I want to say it was like Kurt Russell or something, but they were having flights over Phoenix, and it's called the Phoenix Lights, and they were actually proven to be terrestrial craft in the shape of a triangle. It was the wildest thing.
If you don't mind, can I take about 2 minutes and tell you that's the story? Because
absolutely. I want to hear it. Go ahead.
A friend of mine, we used to go to the local movie theater on Sunday nights. Okay, we had school the next day. We were seniors, I think. So it was about 9:30 at night. We're coming out of the movie theater, and traffic was just at a dead stop. So we were about a half a mile to the main road. So we're thinking it was an accident. Now, this is going to sound absolutely crazy. I swear I was sober. I don't do drugs. As we inched up to the intersection, people were out of their cars and everything. Rob, there was the triangle, okay? It was white lights, one red light. And it was sitting completely still. It wasn't moving. It made zero sound. People were just out of their cars staring at it, okay? It must have remained for a good 3 or 4 minutes.
Wow, that's long.
It did it was sitting like this. Instead of just turning, it went up like this. It went like this, then back down like this, and started going forward.
Wow.
Very slow, no sound. So we were in my buddy's car and we followed under it. I don't mean directly, it was ahead of us, but we were behind it, so to speak. I knew a high point in my neighborhood that we could park, and there was a actual park there. It was 1 block from my house. At the top of the hill, off in the distance, was Baltimore City. Well, sure enough, we somehow got ahead of this, whatever this thing was. Parked the car, jumped out, ran to the park, and we were literally laying on top of a hill. Rob, it came over top of us. It slowly now, this took 45 minutes. It circled out over around Baltimore City 3 times.
Wow.
The next time it went out, it stayed completely straight and just went out of sight.
I bet you any amount of money that I can find corroborating reports of the same instance. If it was a group encounter like that, I guarantee you I could find statements on it.
Traffic was stopped for over a mile both directions. I'm not kidding you. It was the craziest. I couldn't even believe it. The funny thing is, we did not know what the hell we were seeing. You know, all we know is it was 1987. We've never seen anything in the sky like this. No. And the thing that shocked me and my friend the most was
it was a weather balloon.
It made zero noise. Zero noise. But the funny thing, I was watching, because I watch all those UFO shows and all that good stuff. But there was a case in, I don't remember if it was Montana, but there was a police officer like on a country road, and he saw the same exact thing while he he was seeing it. He drew a picture of it on his clipboard.
Yep.
But then my friend, the female medium, she saw the same thing in 2007. Now, am I sitting here saying it was ET? Absolutely not. But I have no idea of anything, of what it could be.
No, absolutely. With the zero sound, there has to be some kind of, I don't even know. It had to be like a 0-point reactor in it or some kind of anti-gravity field, because if there's an anti-gravity field, it'll take the sound away. The sound will be on the inside of the field.
The funny thing is, like I said, the way it maneuvered, you would think if it's just hovering and it wanted to go straight, it would just go like this and go straight. But it went up this way, back down, boom.
That's because rotating inside of that field is easier when you're skipping as opposed to flat nosing it this way. And the proportion away is like, it's weird the way that they work.
The sad thing is, with it being, 1987, nobody's coming out of the movie theater and got their camera with them, and that's the only way you capture things back then was with a camera. It wasn't video, all that. But
all the phones and everything.
The thing that kind of made me realize I wasn't crazy was the traffic jam, because I actually got in trouble. It was a school night, and my parents were strict, man. You know what I mean? And
then you're going home telling them that story. They're like, "Yeah, right."
I was so damn late getting home because not only the traffic jam, but then we decided, hell with it, we're going to follow this thing. So I didn't get home till after midnight, and the movie let out like 9:30, and what was I going to tell my mother? Like, we were following a UFO. Yeah.
But that's wild. I love those stories. One of my favorite stories of all time for UFOs, and it's kind of like yours, but it's a little bit different as well. This young kid it must have been about 1934, 1935, lived in the middle of the country, somewhere between Kansas and Oklahoma. He lived in a farmhouse, and he came out in the morning and looked to his left. The field's out in front of him. He looks to his left, and he sees not like a triangle, but it was like a square type of craft, and it's landed now, right? So he's looking into the glass of this ship, and he sees a human dressed in all silver. And the guy sees him, and they make eye contact, and then he hides behind the console. He turns back to get his father, turns back around, and it's gone. So it may not even be extraterrestrial. It may be cruising through the path of time as opposed to, out there or here. And one of the things that I believe when it comes to time travel is that when you skip either forward or backwards, you're not in the same timeline anymore. You've gone to a different one.
Well, look at it like, and this is really, I mean, this is really far-fetched, but think of it this way. People have visions of spirits and religious icons from the biblical days. People see horse-drawn carriages and stuff along those lines in the spirit realm. What's to say that a flying saucer can't be paranormal in some sort of spirit realm?
Yeah,
right.
From the future looking backwards, and we happen to see them in the look.
Right. What's to say that like, here's the other thing that could be a possibility. And it's a little far-fetched, but just like there's a medium who can see the spirits and the other people can't, there's certainly certain people who can see those UFOs and other people can't.
Right.
It could be exactly the same justification as there is for entities, which is a wild thing to think about, which is why some see it and some don't.
I think the whole time parameter, whether you're talking about energy, spirits, ghosts, UFOs, I think the whole time parameter thing plays a very big part in everything that everyone experiences.
The thing is, though, they say time is linear. Only reason why we're saying time is linear is we only know it moves forward. That's all we can adjust from our knowledge. We haven't discovered or may not know about yet how to look backwards and forwards.
Let me ask you this, Robin. By no means am I putting you on the spot with a question.
No, man, I'm good. Hit me with it.
Hopefully this will make sense. You said you like EVPs.
Mm-hmm.
What's every investigator say? When you ask a question, wait like 20 seconds. That spirit might need that amount of time to muster up the energy to provide you with a response. What if, because of the time difference, the time parameter, what if that 20 seconds is actually how long it takes your voice to cross over to get to that spirit?
That is a really big possibility. Or considering that once you cross over to that side, time I guess would be infinite at that moment. So therefore, like it's almost like when a computer uploads or downloads, it has to transfer the file between the wire and the units. So now that burst of energy coming out of your mouth ends up transferring energy so they can actually hear it in the way that they would normally on that side.
Something to think about. What if we're the EVP to them who are answering in their time?
We definitely are. We have to be.
Realize how much evidence Dave and I have with a delay on it.
Yep.
Seriously. From flashlight tricks to, a Phasma box, Echo Vox, EVPs, there seems to always be some sort of delay.
Well, here's the other part of that too, is let's say that there is a veil, right?
Mm-hmm.
There has to be weak points in the veil for that burst of energy to pass through. So it has to run along the veil until it finds that, and boop, there it goes in.
Go through. Yep.
That as well could be one of the possibilities. It definitely has to do with that.
Out there, and that's what I was saying back to, we're in our infancy at this point. There's so much more until we can figure it out physically, metaphysically, and spiritually. There were, and that's why I like so many of the ghost teams that are showing the stuff that are going on. Nick Groff. I love, I love all the shows. And because they're trying different experiments and trying different equipment.
And this goes right along with what Dave was saying. 2 public events ago, the last 2 public investigations we did, we were at the same place. Dave was a floor above me, and he was running a Phasma box. Well, I was doing some EVP work. I was asking questions. The floor above me, Dave was getting the responses. And we didn't plan that. We didn't ask him to do that, Rob.
It didn't make sense to me. And I went, Ernie, I got a response here, and this is the response.
Well, because you asked me, his question to me was, and I don't know why, who did you just text? And I'm like, what the hell is he asking me that for? Like, because what happened was we're in the middle of our investigation. And, like I said, we're a floor apart. And my old phone here, which is on its last leg, the vibration don't work no more. So I have to always keep the volume up in case somebody calls or my wife or whatever. So during an EVP session, I get a message. Well, it happens to be from a friend of ours who's a very
on one of the shows,
popular, TV celebrity on a ghost show. Dave in turn asked me, who did I just message or something like that? And because he got the response, quote, Ernie, he's filming.
Yep.
And
I let him know, Ernie, he's filming right now.
Right.
And that's when we started. All right,
and
let's try this. And
the thing was, he wasn't filming, but he actually sent me a message, and I replied, "Hey, we're in the middle of an event. Hit you up tomorrow." But Dave got that response, and that was so weird that Dave calls me on the walkie and was like, "Hey, who'd you just text?" Like, wow,
it's pretty crazy. Maybe Dave was closer to the actual hole in which that would pass through, or there was, like I said, maybe there's there's points, and I this could be possible too. Is there's these points, right, where these portals are, shall we say?
Yep.
And that's why some places are more active than others, because things are pouring in and out of these spots. And I think that there's definitely, and that's where EMF comes in too. So the EMF meter may also be picking up where this transfer of energy is taking place. That's why it's clicking the way it is. You know what I mean? That's why you're seeing that, because that entity will be there, but until it transfers its energy, you're not going to pick it up.
Yep. And see, that's why I love K2 meters. That they're one of my favorite tools to use. The reason why is a lot of people don't know. Everybody's like trying to, can you make the lights go up? They don't realize what a K2 meter is. A K2 meter is actually an electrician's tool. It is not a paranormal tool. And it's made to find your electrical leaks. And the higher the leak you find, the more light you get. Well, if you're in like a place like Haldeman Mansion, all the way up in the attic where there's no electricity, and it's pegging out with no electricity around you, why?
Sure.
We have a video on our YouTube channel. It was taken by Dream and Weber while we were doing an investigation there. Mike's in the doorway behind us. We actually had taken a thermal, and it was 58 degrees, or 53 degrees. I'm sorry, 53 degrees. And as we're talking, a REM pod started answering our questions for like 17 minutes. The temperature went down to the point where you could see your breath coming out, and it felt like somebody was stabbing you with ice.
Wow.
At the end of it, you could feel the whole thing move. Now, Mike was out in a doorway. He wasn't with the session.
He couldn't hear what we were saying.
And he said, whatever you guys are talking with just blew by me. And literally the temperature went from 32 degrees back up to 53 degrees.
Maybe that cold is when it goes through those spots.
Yep.
There's like this residual effect to them that's this chill, because they are passing from one side to the other.
And you have to,
and that energy produces that cold.
For them to interact with us, they have to draw from the natural energy in the air, which automatically is going to make it cold.
Yep.
Or draw from you, which is making you colder because they're sapping you a little bit,
Absolutely.
That's wild.
Oh, because like literally, when we metered it, it went down to 32 degrees. You could actually see your breath up there. Now there's 20 people up in this attic.
It should have gotten hotter.
So it should have gotten hotter, not colder. And it went from 53 degrees down to 32 degrees. We metered it. And you hear us talking on the video. Everybody's going, it's getting cold in here. Oh my God, it's cold. And you can hear everybody in the group saying it's cold. And as we're talking, you can actually see the breath coming out. And when it left, you hear Mike in the background going, it just blew by me. And it
That's wild.
Went right back up.
And there's no bigger skeptic than Mike King.
Mike King's the biggest skeptic.
He's the biggest skeptic you'll ever meet.
Right. Now this leads me to the question that I ask everybody that's in paranormal. Ernie, I think I've asked you this already, but I'm going to ask you to answer it again, right? And this is a kind of like a multi-part question. What do you feel? Why? Let me phrase it right. What do you think these entities are? Why do you think they cross over? And what exactly is happening when they cross over?
I'll keep it as brief as I can. I feel when a person passes away, scientifically, it's known as energy. To me, being a Roman Catholic, it's their soul.
Mhm.
I feel that for whatever reason, some folks have trouble finding the light, crossing over into paradise. However, once they cross, I feel they can come back.
Absolutely.
Now, from that standpoint, they could come back for many reasons. They miss you. They miss something. They miss life. They miss their house, whatever. I don't think they come back. Like I said on your other show, I don't think they come back just to walk around the mall. There's a reason. As investigators, it's up to us to help that spirit and figure out that reason for them, help them and guide them with it. You know what I mean? I think spirits can see impending doom. Okay. They may just want to come back to comfort you, to protect you.
With that part of it, to me, being a lay minister, my opinion, this is my personal opinion. If you cross over to heaven and you're in paradise, what is paradise to you? God wouldn't just say, "Come sit next to me," and this is you're done here. God's going to look at you and go, "You want to see your family, you want to see your friends, you want to watch your grandchildren grow." He's not going to just hold you in a place like a prison there.
Right.
He's going to let you come back,
right,
and visit your kids, your grandchildren, your great grandchildren, and watch and learn until the final judgment day.
Right.
I mean,
I think that makes a lot of sense, and there's no wrong answers to this. But I agree with you. But to piggyback off that even further now, since we were just talking about how time might pass differently over there, and if they do have this message or this moment where they're meant to either bestow knowledge upon you or warn you or even just to say hi, them waiting wherever they're waiting while other people may be investigating the place, time could be different for them. So they're there longer, where it would be that 200-year gap for us. But to them, maybe in those instances, it feels like 10 minutes, or it could feel like infinity to them. And they're there trying to interact with anybody and everybody to keep themselves entertained, because time is passing at such, we don't know whether it's faster or slower. So it could go either way.
absolutely.
I think that's awesome. That's a lot of things to think about. We just definitely gave people like a lot.
Rob, it can go off in so many different directions.
Oh yeah.
I agree.
There was without giving too much detail away, there was a chapter I wrote in my book about an occurrence that my grandmother experienced, where someone visited her. I mean, a living person visited her. Well, come to find out, now we're talking 13. They live 13 hours apart. Shortly after he had come to visit my grandmother, we got word that he was killed. Now, where he was killed was even further from his home. He was out working. So the moral of the story is he was never at my grandmother's house. Now, she's not crazy. It's a very religious woman, never drank or drugged a day in her life. But I feel that she experienced what is a prophetic vision, where a vision of a living person that subconsciously they want to get a message to you, and they can actually spiritually visit you while they're still alive and not even know it's happening. Wow. But based on the location and the time frame in real life, there was no way he could have visited my grandmother based on the time of his death.
There's so many occurrences that are sort of, they're different in that sense too. Like we hear a lot about those as well, while they're alive or right after they've passed. They go to people immediately, or it's such a crazy thing. And that leads me to one of the other topics that we were going to talk about tonight. Well, we still have about 15 minutes left, and I have a chart that I want to show people because I think it's interesting, and it kind of coincides with what we're talking about and how the paranormal has become so much more mainstream, and we're not on the fringes anymore. So now that we're on the fringes anymore, and with these groups on Facebook and these podcasts, we can find a lot of like-minded people in these groups where we can do what we did tonight, which was where we could piggyback off each other and speculate on what is really going on there. So, and it's crazy because, there's so many different, we'll say that there are conspiracy theories that are probably conspiracy fact. We just haven't proven them to be yet. So one of the things that I did was I looked up this most common belief in the U.S., which of course we're from the U.S., from ghosts to aliens. We've touched on both of those tonight. And basically what they did at Chapman University is they took 1,207 random people across the United States, and they found that most common parallel belief among participants was the belief that ancient civilizations like Atlantis existed, with 55% agreeing strongly or just agreeing. And that's the beginning of it. We could talk about it for a while. We're going to go through a couple of them, but when we look at this chart, right, you see the next one is places can be haunted by spirits. So from where it used to be, I would say it was more towards between the 25 and the 19 area here.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
In the last 5 years, it has gained enough traction that it's at 52%, opposed. The other one, only thing leading it is ancient civilizations, which means that maybe history isn't exactly as we think it is. So you're talking about a lot of different things that, people are looking at this in such a different way that I can only imagine what's going to be the next steps and how many people are waking up to this fact that there are these places that are truly not, they're not dark, they're not light, they're just entities there and they're doing something. I mean, you can see it. I mean, I think it's pretty wild. Wouldn't you say that?
But
absolutely.
what comes to mind though, Rob? My belief, a big part of the whole paranormal thing is look how it's investigated and researched today. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the only reason, in my opinion, say 80 years ago, the field wasn't where it is today, not only because of the technology, but I mean, generally speaking, is what I'm saying is the only reason it wasn't popular back then, it just wasn't a hot topic like it is now. I think if 80 years ago, people would have brought it mainstream, we'd be much further along. But for whatever reason, it was always, like we said earlier, associated with evil.
Yeah.
Unless
Look at Salem.
unless you were looking at it from a religious aspect.
Let's go back to Salem, Massachusetts.
Right, exactly.
The burning of the witches.
Yeah.
Because there were children saying, "Oh, she's affecting me." Something that simple. They're a witch.
Right.
If you would have said, "Oh, I saw a ghost," you're being burned at the stake.
Right.
Right.
But see, like what you said, Rob, you think that paranormal, the belief was somewhere between the 19 and 25%. Okay. It's a little more than doubled over the past few years.
Oh, yeah.
And why is that? Because everybody's into it.
Because it's
if everyone would have been into it,
yep,
80 to 100 years ago, it would have been this way then.
Well, the thing is, I think it's social media that has actually propelled this 100% forward.
It shines a light on it where more like-minded people can come together. It definitely gives people a place to congregate because,
I like technology.
Well, that's it too, but it's also even more even with the word of mouth side of it,
right,
it's become more not more mainstream, but there's more to it. It's just in all facets, whether it be technology, evidence, or theories, and there's more people focusing on it. And I think that also has to do with the sign of the times too.
Yes.
There's a lot of things happening that people can't explain. So what else can't be, which is what this chart is indicative of.
And
you know, we can't explain this. So what else is a mystery?
I think to add to it, like you said, how many people are focused on it now? Okay. With all that focus, all them thoughts, and all that energy in going the same direction, it's bringing
We're manifesting it.
It's bringing the spirit realm to life, because it's probably like, you know, hey guys,
fuel on the fire.
Yeah, we can get these messages across now. Yep. You know what I mean? It's like if you're stranded on an island and you're figuring out for a decade how to get the hell off this island, and you know, all of a sudden you see help coming, you're gonna be like, hey, down here, you know what I mean? And I think all this energy and just all this love and passion that everybody's putting in, and it's always through electronics, I think it's just boosting everything up.
I like that. I like the sound of that, and I completely agree. I agree. You know, they say when people, let's just use prayer, for example. They say when people pray in a group, it's stronger in the congregation. That's why they made congregations to begin with, was this group prayer had more power. Even back before they even understood what power really was, they knew this to be fact because they could feel it.
Right. Well, we did an experiment in 2017, and it was our first year participating in World's Largest Ghost Hunt. And the two hosts, which covered the entire event, was Brian Cano and Scotty Rourke. Now, this was locations all over the world.
Yep.
We're investigating simultaneously. Okay. Hundreds of locations.
Shotgun start at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
And the objective for that specific year was Scotty and Brian had a password that no one knew except those two. With all the different time parameters, locations, and venues, with everyone's energy focused on the same event at the same time, their goal was to see if that password could get passed from them to one of us throughout the world. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's an experiment I'd love to do too. Just try to figure it out.
We were talking about this on another show, and we weren't sure. I talked to Maria, and one of the teams actually came up with the password.
Good. And
that's wild. That's a wild thing.
It's not a common word.
No.
If you know,
if you know Brian Cano,
you know,
he's not going to come up with something civil like smile.
He's very good dude and very knowledgeable and very methodic in the way
they still won't tell what the word was, but they actually told me that a team did come up with it.
All right.
That's wild, guys. That's wild. So what's next besides Step Into the Paranormal, of course, we know is going to Roku. What's next for you guys on an investigation level?
Oh, man. Well, we were already asked before we even exited the building to host another event at the Samuel Miller Mansion in Columbia, PA. We'll actually be there for that private investigation with some other investigators in a couple weeks. Big events coming up. We have the Paranormal Relief Project.
Yep, that's in May.
We're already booking for the Gettysburg Battlefield Bash 2021. So there's a lot up and coming. We're currently working on and looking into 2 residential cases that came our way this week. So it's starting to build up already. Actually, man, we didn't get a break, even with the pandemic and the winter, and we didn't get much of a break, man.
No breaks, baby. No breaks. That's how it goes, man. I'll tell you. When it's abundant, it's abundant. It's crazy.
A little bit. What we're doing is Tori Smith from the Paranormal Help Desk. She is an angel on people's shoulders. What she's doing is she started this project, and we were on board in a heartbeat, but we've gotten venues all across the United States. And this is specifically free ghost hunts to those who are on the front lines of first responders, doctors, nurses, police, fire, ambulance, all that. And they can bring one person with them. So we've got, I think, 40 now.
Oh, hell no, man. It's damn near 80 locations.
Oh, is it really? Oh, my God.
Well, it's kind of going to operate like World's Largest Ghost Hunt. It's basically, like Dave said, it's for people that's worked through this whole pandemic that are paranormal enthusiasts that
have never been,
and want to go. And once you get vetted and you really are who you say you are, you can pick your whatever location you want
across the United States.
Across the United States, and they're going to be investigated at the same time, the same night. And we were one of the first on board with Tori, to get her, help her out, get started, whatever. And she done a fabulous job. Oh, my goodness. She has done such a fabulous job. But we will be at the Malvern Manor, which is owned by Josh Hurd from G Crew. Mm-hmm. Everybody knows G Crew is Josh Hurd and Nick Groff and Johnny Hauser and Chad Lindbergh. So we will be there with Tori and Josh, and we will be leading the investigation and investigating the Malvern Manor for the Paranormal Relief Project.
I think that is such an awesome thing, guys. And giving, not just giving back, but being able to do that it's a gift, to give back to these people who sacrifice so much. And if there's anything that I can do to help that out, just let me know, and I'm here to do whatever you need.
And
I agree with that 100%.
What I think is going to be a good, and this is getting, and I don't mean this to sound twisted. These doctors and nurses, and don't get me wrong, man, I'm a cop. I see the worst of the worst on a daily basis. But take into consideration what these doctors and nurses have seen during this pandemic and the death and the suffering. Now, you can only imagine where their mind is, right, Rob?
Oh, my God.
Take them on a real paranormal investigation and show them the reality and the peace of the other side.
Well, you're showing them that what they saw they thought was the end isn't truly the end. And you give them that hope.
Bring them some
yes.
Whether it's satisfaction or closure, like, wow, this really is peaceful. You know what I mean?
Right. They moved on. They didn't.
Some of the stuff in the paranormal, and she's just been amazed by it.
Right.
That is awesome. I didn't even think about it until you just said that, but be giving them that peace of mind that it's not over, it's just over there.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And it's the death of the physical body, but it might be the beginning of the metaphysical aspect.
Right. And if you can just give somebody that
hope,
that small glimpse of peace or closure for a split second, they may, who knows, it may help them in dealing with people when they go back to work. You never know.
That's true. You know what? We never know how we truly touch people until after the fact, whatever facet of life it is. Yeah. But I think that is such a great, guys, that is such an awesome thing to help these people out and give them that.
He just lost internet again.
Rob, where'd you go?
Rob, where'd you go? I think you lost internet again. Well, we'll keep talking here. So how you been?
I'm good, man.
I don't know if you can actually hear us or not.
We're back. We're back.
We kept the show going.
I know, but that happened right before we came on too. It gave us almost 2 hours before it did it again. But just to repeat myself, if there's any way I can help in any shape, form, or fashion, please let me know. I would love to be a part of it in any way.
Well, actually, Tori messaged me during tonight's broadcast, so I will let her know that, man.
Definitely, Rob.
We really appreciate that, man.
So we're getting right up to the end. So what we're going to do, guys, is I'm going to give you guys a couple of minutes, tell everybody where they can find you, and some closing statements, and then I'm going to take us home. I just want to say, guys, this has been another amazing episode. I love chatting with you guys. It's like we're just having a conversation, not even an interview. I'm just picking your brain. I admire you guys, and I love the show. I love what you guys do, and it's my honor. And I'm truly honored to be able to sit here, and I feel privileged to have talked to you guys again this evening. It's so awesome.
The same exact way about you.
Thank you, Rob. Thank you for having us on the show.
You can
find us at www.paranormalinc.net. That's PARANORMALINC.net. That links us to our Facebook page and our YouTube channel. It also has, if you need to message us, it has a way to get in touch with us on there as well.
Email, phone number,
everything.
We have a phone number you can call.
You can call us
if you need us.
To. Yeah. Yep, and it'll actually send a message to both of us at the same time.
Be sure to check us out. We're switching over to Roku TV as of tomorrow.
No, we're adding onto Roku. We're not switching out. We'll still be on Facebook.
Yeah, that's
YouTube.
we're adding.
We're going.
we're going.
I know what he meant.
Yeah. Also, for those of you watching or listening or whatever, how you're hearing us, send a request on Facebook to Paranormal Inc. It's a closed page.
Yep.
No judgment, all love, all fun, all education. Feel free to come on there and post away, man. All your evidence. If you have a podcast, if you have a story, that's what it's for, man. It's one love, it's unity, and it's to bring everyone together in the paranormal.
Yeah, only reason why we keep it as a closed page is there's a lot of people out there that just spam accounts, and that way, if you created one yesterday, guess what? Most likely you're not a real account.
So just find Paranormal Inc. You'll see
it's right on our webpage.
You'll see Dave and I's mug on there. Just send us a request.
So awesome. And guys, Paranormal Inc. is truly incredible. I love the group. I love your guys' show. Again, thank you guys for coming on. I also want to thank the audience for tuning in tonight. I have a ton of gratitude. We're starting off the new year. Truly amazing. And I love all you guys out there. And Melinda's out there watching us too. She was just live doing readings. Love you, girl. And dude, I love you guys too. And I know I can't wait to bring you guys back on and have another conversation. It's truly an awesome show, guys.
Can't wait to be back.
Yeah, I mean, listen, we're gonna have you here a ton of times, so guys, look out for it. I just want to let everybody know we have a special episode on Thursday night. We have Oleg Demigard. He's going to be coming on. He is a conspiracy investigator. He has uncovered so many things about the JFK assassination, Operation 40, the pandemic itself right now. He is an epic mind, something that he's so incredible. I can't wait to talk to him as well. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. I appreciate it, and I hope you'll have a great rest of the evening.
One love, y'all.